You know, when you think about your breakfast eggs or that steak you had for dinner, do you ever stop and wonder what else might be in there? We're not talking about spices or seasonings. We're talking about a potential invisible ingredient, tiny traces of medicines like antibiotics that can actually linger in our food.
And that really brings us to the big question, the one we should probably all be asking. What's actually hiding in your food?
All right, so there's an official name for this. It's called veterinary drug residues. It sounds pretty technical, I know. But all it really means is the little leftover bits of medicines, things like antibiotics, antiparasitics, or even hormones that can stick around in meat, milk, or eggs after an animal has been treated.
So you're probably asking, how does this even happen? Well, it all comes down to one absolutely critical concept, the withdrawal period. Think of it like a safety countdown. It's the required waiting time for a drug to safely flush out of an animal's system before its products can be used. Now, the problem is, when that period is ignored or cut short, guess where those residues end up? Yep, passed right on to us. Okay, so let's be really clear here. This is not just some minor contamination issue. We're actually talking about a key part of a growing health crisis, one with some seriously underestimated dangers for every single one of us. And the risks? They're surprisingly all over the map. For some people, it could mean allergic reactions. For others, long-term exposure could lead to toxic effects or just really mess with the good bacteria in your gut. But the biggest threat, the real headline grabber here, is the development of antibiotic resistance. And that leads us to the most serious danger of all. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's called antibiotic zoonosis. I know, big word. But the concept is actually pretty simple and frankly terrifying. We're talking about infections from superbugs, bacteria that have become resistant to our medicines, that make the jump from animals to humans. And one of the main ways they do that? Through the food we eat.
And look, this isn't some abstract sci-fi threat. We are talking about household names here, bacteria you've definitely heard of. Imagine common infections from Salmonella and E. coli from poultry and beef suddenly becoming untreatable, or Campylobacter developing resistance to our go-to antibiotics. It even includes MRSA, which can be transmitted directly from livestock to farm workers. The danger is that everyday infections could suddenly become life-threatening.
So we've got the what's happening and why it's so dangerous. But the next logical question is, why? Why is this happening? Let's connect the dots. It really boils down to how antibiotics are used in farming. On one hand, you have proper, responsible use. An animal gets sick, a vet supervises its treatment, it gets better. Simple. But on the other hand, you have misuse. This is where antibiotics are used routinely, sometimes just to promote faster growth or as a just-in-case preventative measure for a whole herd. That kind of massive overuse, well, it's the perfect breeding ground for resistance. And let's be clear, there's no single villain to point a finger at. This is a complex problem. While that overuse in livestock is the biggest piece of the pie, it's not the whole story. You've also got poor regulation, maybe a lack of awareness among some farmers about how crucial those withdrawal periods are, and even environmental contamination. It all adds up. So, okay, the problem is big, it's multifaceted. It can feel a little overwhelming, but, and this is a big but, there is a way forward. It's a concept called the One Health Solution. And the core idea is as simple as it is powerful. Protecting the health of animals is how we protect ourselves. So what does that actually look like in practice? Well, you can think of it as a four-part strategy for safer food. First, we have to get really strict about following those drug withdrawal periods. Second, antibiotics should only be used with a veterinarian's prescription, period. Third, we've got to strengthen how we monitor our food supplies to catch problems early. And finally, we need to promote alternatives, like vaccines and just better hygiene, to reduce the need for antibiotics in the first place. Now, here's the crucial part. This isn't just one group's job. Not at all. This requires a massive team effort. Governments need to create and enforce strong regulations. Vets have to guide the responsible use of medicine. Farmers are on the front lines, actually implementing these practices. And us, the public, we have a huge role to play in demanding safer food and supporting those who produce it the right way. It all comes back to that one central, powerful idea. When we protect animal health responsibly, we are protecting human health too. That's the heart of the One Health approach. It's the simple recognition that we are all connected. Which leaves us with a final thought, something to chew on. We've seen the system, we've talked about the risks, and we've laid out the solutions. So the real question for all of us is this:
How can we make sure the food on our plate is part of the solution and not part of the problem?